All right, welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at immigration law and policy.
Okay.
Specifically, a program called Parole in Place, or PIP.
Right.
So PIP, imagine this. You have a family member serving in the U.S. military, putting their life on the line,
Yeah.
but they have undocumented family here in the States. PIP was designed to be a lifeline for them,
Okay.
allowing them to apply for a green card without having to leave the U.S.
I see.
But a recent court decision out of Texas has thrown this whole thing into uncertainty,
Wow.
leaving a lot of folks in limbo. So we're going to break down what this ruling actually means.
Right.
What are the legal battles brewing? And what do you need to know about this constantly shifting landscape?
Sounds good. Well, what I think is really interesting here is that this isn't just about PIP.
Yeah.
It's about, who gets to actually call the shots on immigration.
Mm-hmm.
The Texas judge basically said the Biden administration went too far, implementing PIP without Congress's approval. So this could set a precedent
Okay.
that impacts way more than just PIP.
So it's like a power struggle between the executive branch and Congress.
Exactly.
Damn.
With real people caught in the crossfire.
Wow.
The judge is basically saying, hey, Congress, it's your job to make the rules, not the president's.
Right, because Congress is often pretty divided on these issues, which could really drag things out. Okay, so let's get into the specifics of the ruling.
Sure.
What were the judge's main arguments?
So the judge relied on two things.
Okay.
First, they pointed to the fact that Congress has already set up very specific ways for people to adjust their status and get a green card.
Yeah.
They argued that PIP is like a shortcut that bypasses all of the established rules.
I see.
And second, they honed in on the idea of parole. Legally speaking, parole is supposed to be limited and temporary,
Okay.
used only in emergency situations. The judge argued that the way PIP was being used, granting parole for potentially years while people wait for a green card, was stretching the definition of parole way too far.
So, for those who are counting on PIP, what happens to their applications now? Are they just out of luck?
Well, not necessarily. Here's where it gets a bit complicated.
Okay.
USCIS, the agency that handles immigration applications, they've said that they've put all pending PIP applications on hold. So they're still in the system. But no decisions are being made right now.
Gotcha.
This also means that things like biometrics appointments, those are on hold too.
I bet that's incredibly frustrating for those families just waiting. So what does on hold actually mean for them?
It basically means they're stuck in a waiting game,
Right.
which honestly is nothing new in the world of immigration.
Yeah.
But here's the important part.
Okay.
USCIS is still legally obligated to eventually make a decision on those applications. Once this legal mess gets sorted out, it's just a matter of when, not if.
Okay, and for our listeners who might not be familiar, what exactly are biometrics?
Oh yeah, so biometrics are those fingerprinting and photo appointments
Okay.
that are part of the immigration process.
Gotcha.
It's kind of like getting your mugshot taken, but for a green card, I guess.
Yeah. One thing that's been heartening to see is the response from advocacy groups and immigration lawyers.
Right.
The American Immigration Lawyers Association, or AILA,
Yeah.
they're really leading the charge here, filing appeals, raising public awareness, and fighting to protect the rights of those impacted. It's great to see that there's pushback and people aren't just accepting this decision quietly.
Yeah, definitely.
And speaking of pushback, we're seeing some states taking a stand as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. California in particular has been very vocal in its support for immigrants. They've been actively resisting federal policies that they see as harmful, and they've made it clear that they're going to do everything they can to protect those who rely on programs like PIP.
Wow, so it's like a tug of war between the federal government and some states.
Exactly, adding even more complexity to this situation. But, this deep dive isn't just about the PIP roller coaster.
Okay.
We also have some other important developments to discuss.
Right.
Like the December 2024 visa bulletin and a fascinating case about permanent residency requirements. But before we jump into those, let's take a pause to understand the potential fallout from this Texas decision.
Yeah, this is a good idea. It's easy to get lost in the legal weeds.
Right.
You have to remember, this is about real people's lives.
Exactly. We need to understand what's at stake here. So imagine you're a military spouse. You've been living in the U.S. for years, building a life, building a family. And suddenly, because of this ruling, you're facing the very real possibility of deportation. We'll unpack the human impact of this decision after a quick break.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. You have families who have sacrificed so much, with one spouse serving in the military,
Right.
putting their life on the line for this country.
Yeah.
And the other spouse is just left in constant fear,
Yeah.
not knowing if they'll be able to stay with their children,
Right.
build a future here.
It's a stark reminder that policy decisions made in courtrooms
Wow.
or legislative chambers
Yeah.
have very real consequences
Absolutely.
for people on the ground.
And it's not just the immediate impact on families, it's the ripple effect
Yeah.
throughout communities.
Right.
Think about the economic contributions of these individuals, the businesses they support,
Yeah.
the social fabric they're a part of. Deporting them doesn't just hurt their families, it hurts all of us.
It really highlights the interconnectedness of immigration and our communities.
Yeah.
Now, I notice some people might be thinking, well, they should just follow the rules, get in line like everyone else.
Uh-huh.
It's not always that simple, is it?
Not at all. The immigration system is incredibly complex.
Yeah.
There's a backlog of cases, limited options for some folks.
Right.
For those who are eligible for PIP, it was seen as a beacon of hope, a way to finally get on a path to legal status and contribute to the country they call home,
Yeah.
without that constant fear of deportation.
So this ruling feels like a giant step backward for those families and for the idea of a more humane immigration system.
I think that's a fair assessment. It sends a chilling message, not just to those impacted by PIP, but to all immigrants
Right.
who are trying to navigate this system.
It also raises questions about what this means for other immigration programs. Right?
Exactly. If this reasoning is applied more broadly,
Yeah.
could this open the door for challenges to other executive actions on immigration?
It feels like we're in for a long and bumpy ride when it comes to immigration policy. But let's shift gears for a moment
Go there.
and talk about some positive news. The December 2024 Visa Bulletin
Right.
brought some good news for folks waiting for their green cards.
It did. We saw a movement
Okay.
in the family-based visa categories,
Yeah.
meaning some people can finally file for adjustment of status.
For our listeners who might not be familiar with immigration law, what exactly does that mean?
Think of it like this. You're already in the U.S.,
Okay.
maybe on a temporary visa, and you're applying to, switch lanes to become a permanent resident.
I see.
That's what adjustment of status is.
Okay.
And the Visa Bulletin tells us who's eligible to file each month based on their country of origin and visa type.
So it's like a monthly update on who's moving forward in the green card line.
Exactly. And this time around, good news for those in family-based categories.
Yeah, that's got to be a huge relief.
Absolutely. And it's not just family-based visas. The December Bulletin also showed most employment-based visa categories are now current.
Wait, current, what does that mean?
It means there's no backlog. If you're eligible, you can file right away.
Okay.
It's great news for people coming here to work
Yeah.
and for employers trying to attract global talent.
So, in a nutshell, the December Visa Bulletin brought some much-needed positive news for both family-based and employment-based immigration.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even amidst challenges, there are still glimmers of hope and progress.
Speaking of wins, there was also a positive ruling in November 2024 regarding proof of permanent resident status for naturalization.
Okay.
Can you tell us a bit about that case?
Certainly. This case involved a green card holder who entered the U.S. on parole many years ago
Okay.
and was later facing questions about whether that initial entry could be used against them.
So this gets back to that tricky issue of parole we were talking about earlier.
Precisely. How it can sometimes create roadblocks, even if they've been living here illegally for years.
But in this case, the court ruled that only the applicant's permanent resident status mattered, not how they initially entered.
Right.
That's a huge win for immigrants who have faced obstacles in proving their status, even if they've been following the rules, living in the U.S. legally.
It's a step towards a more fair and common sense approach. It is. And it highlights the importance of having a legal system
Yeah.
that recognizes the complexities of immigration and doesn't punish people for technicalities or past circumstances beyond their control.
So while the future of PIP remains uncertain, we've seen some positive developments. It's a mixed bag,
Yeah,
but it's important to stay informed
absolutely.
and engaged.
Right. And it's crucial to remember these aren't just abstract concepts. They have real-world implications for families.
Let's take a moment to hear from one of those individuals, someone whose life has been directly impacted by this uncertainty around parole in place. We'll be back with their story after a quick break.
We've been talking about the legal side of things, But sometimes it helps to put a human face on these issues.
Yeah, for sure. It's easy to get lost in all the legal stuff.
Right.
But we have to remember that real people are grappling with these decisions every single day.
So let's imagine a woman named Maria.
Okay.
Her husband served in the U.S. Army for years, risking his life in combat.
Wow.
She's been living in the U.S., raising their kids, contributing to her community.
But she's undocumented. PIP was her family's path to stability, a chance for her to finally live without fear.
Think about what Maria and her family must be going through right now. It's like the rug has been pulled out from under them.
Right.
But we're so close. And now this ruling throws everything into doubt.
The emotional toll must be incredible. The uncertainty, the anxiety,
Absolutely.
not knowing if they'll be torn apart. It's a reminder that behind all the legal jargon, all the policy debates,
Yeah.
there are real families, real lives hanging in the balance.
And it's not just Maria and her family. There are so many others just like them.
Yeah.
Military families who have sacrificed so much, and now they're left wondering if they can even stay together.
It really makes you think about who we are as a nation.
Right.
Do we value family unity? Do we honor the sacrifices of our military families? Or do we turn our backs on those who have served, simply because of their immigration status?
These are questions we can't ignore. We have to confront them head on.
So, for our listeners, what does all this mean for you? Well, first, it means staying informed.
Yeah, definitely.
This whole world of immigration law, it's constantly evolving, so you need to understand these changes and how they might impact you.
Absolutely.
But it's also about having these conversations. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Challenge assumptions. Share your own perspectives.
It's complicated. There are no easy answers.
Right.
But by talking about it, we can start to find some common ground.
And you might even learn something new along the way.
Exactly.
And if you're feeling inspired to do more, consider supporting organizations like AILA. They're on the front lines, advocating for immigrant rights.
Yeah.
So to recap our deep dive today, we explored parole in place, that controversial Texas court ruling, all the potential consequences, and we also celebrated some positive developments.
Right, like the December visa bulletin.
Yeah.
And the ruling on proof of permanent resident status.
And we took a moment to really think about the human impact, reminding ourselves that behind every legal case, there's a person with hopes and dreams and fears. And as we move forward, it's important to remember the future of immigration policy isn't set in stone. It's shaped by us, by our choices, the actions we take, and the conversations we have.
Absolutely.
So stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay hopeful.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep striving for a more just and equitable world for everyone.
Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel US Immigration News. We hope you are doing great. And in today's video, we will be talking about uncertainty and advocacy in the wake of the Texas court decision on parole in place and immigration relief. A recent federal district court decision in Texas has cast uncertainty over the parole in place policy, which provides relief to certain immigrants. The ruling impacts individuals seeking immigration benefits through PIP, halting the processing of application for the time being. USCIS has confirmed that pending application will remain in their system but will not be processed until further instructions are received. While applicants cannot schedule biometric appointments for now, it's essential to note that USCIS is still legally obligated to educate these petitions as long as the application remains in the system and fees have been paid. This pause is a processing does not remove the government's responsibility to process the application, and legal challenges to the decision are already underway. Immigration is working to challenge the ruling, and there is a potential for a class action lawsuit to hold the government accountable for any delays in the processing. This legal action could ensure that applicants receive the relief they are entitled to under the law. A notable development is the formation of a coalition of immigration and advocacy groups dedicated to opposing harmful policies. Additionally, governors in key states, including California, have expressed support for migrants, immigrants, and pleased to resist policies that could result in deportations or detention. This state-level resistance is crucial for safeguarding immigrant communities against federal actions that may be unjust. Another important development came in November 2024 regarding proof of permanent resident status for those seeking naturalization. A recent court ruling clarified that applicants only need to prove their permanent resident status at the time of their initial admission, whether it occurred at the port of entry or through the adjustment of status process in the US. This ruling is a victory for immigrants who have struggled to demonstrate their status when applying for naturalization. The visa bulletin for December 2024 shows positive movement for both family-based and employment-based immigration categories. Filing date for family-based petition have advanced, allowing applicants to file for adjustment of status sooner. Most employment-based categories are current with faster processing expected for work-based green card applicants in the upcoming months. Despite the challenges, legal advocacy continues with strong resistance at the state level and legal action aimed at protecting immigrants' rights. The ongoing fight for immigrant rights, including the defense of PIP, offers hope for applicants as they wait further legal developments.